Next, we talk one-on-one with Judy Cates, Democratic candidate seeking election as a judge on the 5th District Court of Appeals. This interview was recorded in December of 2011 and runs about 20 minutes. Judy Cates, thanks for joining us again on the Illinois Channel.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You are a candidate for the 5th District Appellate Court, which is an area
37 counties,
37
Southern Illinois.
counties of Southern Illinois. That's quite
Yep.
quite a district.
Right.
You ran once before. That was a few
About
years
4
ago.
years ago, but it was a primary.
And you are now going to be the candidate. And tell us why you are seeking office to the Judicial Court.
The 5th District Appellate Court covers, as I said, 37 counties in Southern Illinois, but the purpose of the appellate court itself is to review the decisions of the trial court. Many times the appellate court is the last court that will hear a dispute. The Supreme Court takes very few cases that go beyond the appellate court. So the appellate court, especially in the 5th District, because it covers so many counties, affects many, many people's lives. And I've represented people throughout Southern Illinois, throughout those 37 counties, and I've wanted to make a difference in their lives at the trial court level and as a lawyer. But now at the appellate court level, I think that I can represent them in a different way and again make a contribution to their lives. So that's why I'm running.
You know, I think a lot of people, and I want to get to the issues as you see them, but I'm curious about your thoughts. As we tape this, we're at the Illinois Bar Association's mid-year meeting in Chicago, and there's been some discussion about judges and the role of judges and whether we should have a merit-based appointed system versus an elected. What do you think about voters voting for judges? They so often seems to, I think, understand maybe the role of the legislative or congressional candidates, but maybe they are a little intimidated when it comes to what are the issues for judicial candidates.
Well, one of the disadvantages that the people have in evaluating judicial candidates is they don't know much about them. Judges don't get out and meet people as much as they should, and there are certain restrictions ethically on judges and what they can do. So the real time when people can meet judges and evaluate them is during the election process, when the rules of ethics allow us to actually get out, meet the voters, take some stands on things, and introduce ourselves. So the people are at a disadvantage, and it's our job to get out there and educate them about what the issues are and make an election. It's unfortunate that we have to run as partisan candidates because I don't think that the judiciary should be partisan. A person shouldn't vote for me or someone else because they're a Democrat or Republican. They need to vote because they like how you think, they like what you represent, and what kind of job they think you're going to do for the people who come before them. So this is the time for us to educate people and let them know what we're about.
And what do you think as you look at the race and as you talk to some of the voters, what are the issues as you see them in the campaign?
I think people want experienced lawyers, people who understand what the issues are and how the issues affect them. Illinois has recently, in the past few years, gotten a very bad reputation for special interest groups purchasing justice, and I don't think people want that. I don't want that. So the issues are fairness, integrity, honesty, and experience, in my viewpoint, for this race.
To that end, let's talk a little bit about your background. What is it that people should know that would make you qualified to be a judge?
Well, I started practicing in 1978. I graduated undergrad from Cornell University in New York. I went to Washington University School of Law. And upon my graduation and passage of the Illinois Bar, I started as a prosecutor. And I represented the people of the state of Illinois in very serious crimes, prosecuting criminals. Did that for 4 years. And then went into the private practice of law, where I started representing people. And people who were injured in barge accidents, railroad accidents, in mines, people who were injured through hospital negligence, all kinds of cases, people crushed by tractors, and my practice has been throughout all of Southern Illinois. I'm admitted in many courts. I've practiced in many courts. I've practiced in St. Clair County, Madison County, Jackson County, Williamson County. I've been in all the federal courts in Illinois. I've been in the Washington, D.C. federal court, the Southern District of Florida, even the Virgin Islands. I've practiced law there. So I have a lot of experience in courtrooms. I've also been given the privilege of being asked to be an adjunct professor. Washington University a few years ago asked me if I would write a class for them, which we did, called Complex Litigation. And so for the past 3 years, I have been teaching a class at Washington U to the upper level students. I also had an invitation from St. Louis University to teach a trial class to, again, upper level students, putting young lawyer students in the courtroom and teaching them the right and wrong way to do things. So I've had a varied legal career. I'm an adjunct professor. I love law, so the people need to know that about me, that I love the law, I believe in justice for everyone, and I will bring all that experience to the appellate court with me if I'm given the chance to do so.
We often, when we talk in political or about the judicial branch, the points of contention among them, or one of the primary ones, is one a strict constructionist or not, I suppose. And those that would argue for strict construction is that you would go by the letter of the law. Others would argue that it's the judge's prerogative to bring their experience to bear. How do you view your own judicial philosophy when you approach an issue?
I think judges should do the same things as juries are instructed to do under the law. And when a case goes to trial, a jury is instructed as follows. You should bring your usual common sense to the courtroom. Don't leave it on the courthouse step. Use your experience in life to make decisions. Jurors are told to do that, and I think judges have the same obligation, but not to the point where they make policy. There's a very fine line between using your background, your experience, your knowledge to make a decision versus using your background and experience to somehow create a new public policy. I don't think that creating public policy is the role of a judge. We have a doctrine in the law called stare decisis, which means we should follow the rules as they've developed over the years through other cases. I think that issue, that following, has to be taken into account. But times change. You know, at one time we had black and white TVs. Now we have the internet and we can get anything on our telephones. So I'm not sure that the rules that applied to black and white TVs so long ago might apply to the internet. We have new issues of privacy arising because of internet access. And so we always have to be looking at what our experience brings us, what the prior legal precedents bring us, but not to the point where I believe we should be making new policy just because we think a certain way.
I think we should point out too, you would be in a judicial level that is, the appellate is one that reviews the lower court's decisions. So you're not going to be setting someone off to prison or assigning jail time, but reviewing the trial case when one appeals, whether it's the prosecution appealing or defendant's attorney appealing. And that would be criminal law, but you would be handling both civil and criminal cases, correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
To which goes to your background, as you were saying, then that you also have that background both in criminal law and in what you've been currently in private practice and civil cases.
Right.
When you went in a prosecutor to try in civil cases, and I'm going to suggest that maybe that was more hands-on because you were dealing with representing the individuals. You're not representing the state. That maybe that was a little more hands-on. I'm just curious, does that change one? I've not been an attorney, so, and if it has changed you, how did it change you, and how would that be applicable to your role of your judicial philosophy and the experience that you bring to the bench.
When I started out prosecuting in the late 70s and early 80s, we had a lot of crime in our area. I mean, we had people who were stabbing elderly folks in wheelchairs. I prosecuted rape, child abuse, murder. And my philosophy was you could never explain it to a jury unless you had been there. So I became one of those kinds of prosecutors who went to every scene, talked to every victim, and tried to get to know them and feel what they had suffered. That allowed me to explain it to a jury much more easily. It opened my eyes. I have to tell you, I had never seen anything like that before. I mean, I remember we had a 5-year-old child who was butchered with a knife, and the belly looked like hamburger. It was awful. But because of that experience and my desire to go to those crime scenes and help people, it became a very easy transition for me to help people then in private practice. I knew that I couldn't put a hand back or a leg back onto somebody, but to get them compensation was the most important thing. It also led me into community service because I realized that our communities needed much more than just a prosecutor or just a lawyer. So I got into education, served on school boards. In the early days, I became an advocate of Big Brother, Big Sister. And so my experience changed me a lot, but it changed me to the point where I felt I could better help people because of what I'd seen. And I also know that if you aren't out there, or someone isn't out there to represent the person who's been maligned by some product or injured by some system, they're not going to have any other help because there is no big company or lobby for those folks that's going to help ensure that the justice system prevails. We need the justice system. I believe very strongly in the justice system. I've been a part of the justice system, and I want to see it continue.
Is Madison County part of the district that you would be representing?
Yes.
As you well know, we've had a debate ongoing as a society, not just in Illinois, about the role of varying groups, whether it's the corporations or the trial lawyers, and et cetera. And Madison County has been referred to by some critics as the judicial hellhole. Others contend that's poppycock. When we're approaching these issues, and right now we're trying to create jobs, and rightly or wrongly, Illinois has had some of these issues that conceivably could keep some businesses away. What do you, I guess I'm searching for, again, judicial philosophy as far as the application of law, not to people, but to the corporations. Is it any different, or is the law the law?
Well, my opponent, when he announced, indicated that a judge should make a decision based upon how it will affect a corporation or doctors. I think that's wrong. I don't think judges should make decisions based on that. The issue of whether doctors come and go or corporations come and go and what environment is created for Illinois is a matter for the legislature. If they want to pass laws that guide the courts, that's one thing. But for a judge to take into account that this corporation might leave if I rule a certain way, even if that is against the existing law, is wrong. I mean, that's what laws are for. Laws are for keeping an organized society. They should be the will of the people, which is enacted through the legislature. I may not like a law, but as a justice, I will be obligated to follow that law, and I will follow that law. But it's against the judicial rules of ethics to go into a case and making a decision knowing it's going to impact someone and using that impact to make the decision. That cannot be a part of our ethics. Because then it would be a matter of who's the lawyer in front of you? Do they have more influence? Who's the corporation in front of you? Do they have more influence? Have they contributed to your campaign? I mean, these are all issues that are very important to Illinois, especially now where we've been through candidates who have been alleged to have had justice for sale. I mean, this is a big issue in Illinois, and we cannot ever let justice be for sale in Illinois or any state, in any court. Justice is for the people. It's not for the wealthy, and it's not for the people who have better lobbyist groups.
When you go around and talk to citizens, do they have questions and they bring up issues? I'm just, for those of us who have never run for office, do they bring up issues that maybe, with all your experience, haven't occurred to you or enlighten you in some form or fashion?
You know, the best part about campaigning is talking to the people. I love to march in the parades with them, and the first reaction is, you're running for judge and you're marching with us in a parade giving out candy? And I said, you know, I'm just like you. You know, I'm just like you. And they can't get over that. And then they start asking questions about, well, you know, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? And a lot of times as a judicial candidate, you cannot give an opinion because, again, you want to go onto the bench without any preconceived promises or notions of how you're going to rule. But you try to answer questions the best you can.
And not to be rude, but I guess we could ask of anyone, how do they know that you would be an ethical judge?
I've lived my life that way. I mean, people who know me know that I'm going to stand up for what I believe in. I did that when I ran the last time. I ran because I truly believed that Southern Illinois needed a person like me, and I say that quite humbly. I mean, I just have more experience than almost every lawyer I know downstate. And I think if you speak to the lawyers, they would tell you that I have been a trial lawyer for 30 plus years. I've had wonderful opportunities. I've tried a lot of cases. I've been in the courtrooms. We worked on a case this summer, which was a record-breaking verdict in a sexual harassment case. So I just do believe that people can trust me, and I think they know it if they've met me or know anything about me.
Tell us just a little bit more about your background and how long have you lived in the area? Where's home for you now?
Well, I was raised in St. Clair County. As I said, I went to Cornell University thinking that when I was graduating high school, I wanted to get as far away from Southern Illinois as I could. And then I found that there's no place like home. I ended up marrying the man I met in high school, so we've been married 36 years. I have a 30-year-old son who practices law with me, David. My daughter Lauren is 23 and is a first-year law student at Washington University. And then, as I said, my 18-year-old Robbie, he's a freshman at the University of Colorado and is playing hockey, ice hockey, for the school right now. So I'm very, very blessed to have a family who's wonderfully supportive and who's encouraging me to make this final race and complete my career in a position that I've always wanted to be in a position that I think I can bring a lot to, and that I can be very effective in.
All right, well, Judy Cates, we appreciate you taking time to talk with us on the Illinois Channel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.